Guys, we're back in our back bay project, and a lot more framing has happened down on the lower level here. I wanted to address a couple of the questions that you guys have brought up. So above me is an existing ceiling, and our new ceiling is actually going to be dropped down below this. We have a lot of steam pipes that we have to address. We have some water pipes. A lot of this is being relocated and moved, but some of it cannot be moved. So what we're going to be doing is relocating what we can and then building our ceiling at a lower elevation in order to accommodate what can't be moved. You see some new PEX lines over there. We'll talk about our PEX and our plumbing in a moment. Tim and Pat have also done some crown mock-ups. So this is a Kukin Brothers profile that we have a mock-up up here. When we go upstairs, we'll look at the built-up one that we're going to be using in the foyer, in the living room. But first, I want to talk about, Tim, last time we were here, this was a giant hole in the wall.
We ended up going with one of the engineer's recommendations, just solid fillet with solid block.
So that is a solid concrete block, and we had talked about, because there was a big void, and there's actually a void all the way to the neighboring unit, and we were concerned that we would have to go all the way down the wall, but why do we not have to do that?
The void was oddly shaped, so we just removed all that was in the void. Any loose bricks that were on the sides, little demo as we needed to do to get it back to where it needed to be.
Mason came in, infilled that, made sure it was, solid, and now we can take our piece of steel that's on the floor back there, attach it to this with using the anchors that you originally had specified, and that will support that steel beam.
Yeah, and we're all the way back to the other wall. It's not just 4 inches deep, it's a full 8 inches deep to the back side of the other wall.
Yeah. And you had mentioned in the last video, there's not a lot of weight on the back side of that beam. Most of the weight is over on this side. Yep. So the reality is it's not holding a tremendous amount of weight, but it does still need to be supported on something other than our temporary support. Now, since we've been here, beyond the framing, you guys have also started on the mechanicals. Yep. And in most times in our order of operations, we're doing HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. Kind of biggest to smallest, if you want to look at it that way. And I know we have more HVAC and ductwork up on the upper level, but down here, we have this little pancake unit. Yep. So walk me through, why are we locating it here out of all places, and what's important in thinking about that as far as layout?
So from a layout standpoint, it's a good spot because this is a closet, and we need to have access to it for maintenance and any other reason you'd want to get up there. And there's a few other components we're going to put up here too. But this is the closet, center of the closet. It's around all the lighting. Everything's kind of taken into consideration where this accent panel needs to be and where everything else is already located.
So when, like you said, being a closet, not a lot of detail in here. You've already worked through the lighting layout, which is great. And we have the unit. I noticed that you're actually hanging on some dampers too, because above here, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is the kitchen area.
Yeah, you're kind of in that area. You're over by the wet bar area, sink. Yep.
And when this is running, we don't want that to be vibrating the floor. And the reality is, if it's vibrating that floor, it's also going to be vibrating the walls and things around that. And this is the primary suite, so we don't want to be hearing that.
No.
So those rubber isolators are going to be there to help prevent that.
And they're super quiet anyways, but it's all part of the process.
What's that blue film?
That's just to keep the dust out of it. It was actually on site from the HVAC guys. They kind of capped things as they went along.
Sure.
And we just kind of followed behind them. And anything that is a flat surface that has to do with any new mechanicals, cover up and keep the dust out of it for now.
So I love that. And guys, that is a huge trade tip. One thing that I've learned from commercial side, anytime ductwork showed up, if you ever see a truck going down the street with huge commercial ductwork, it's always got that blue film on it. It's something really simple to take care of. If you don't have that, you don't have access to it, Home Depot sells carpet mask. It actually works really well because it's got a sticky side, you can cover that. But the thing that sucks is like when you have to go back and clean that thing out, or you pay a ductwork cleaner to come in, it's never gonna be the same. So anytime you have an open duct, we always try to cover it up. It's just one of those things that we want to try to be more preventative about and intentional when we're building. We also have a ton of water lines. So I got water lines headed in that direction, which is our existing and to-be laundry room. And I think we're also prepping for some outdoor spigots, is that right?
Yep, that's what those lines are for, yep.
So PEX everywhere, we've removed everything, and then stepping over into here, we have our primary bathroom. One thing that I really appreciate, Tim, and shout out to McDougall, the plumber and HVAC contractor on this job, in doing is they're stubbing out with copper. One of the more frustrating things I find is that oftentimes PEX will come out and stick out of the wall, and it's fine. It works. And this isn't something saying that this is better than PEX. It's just a personal preference of mine. Having a nice stiff piece of copper coming out, in my opinion, feels better, is more solid. You guys have done a great job making sure that there's blocking behind that. But as far as layout, what was determining height, location, and everything else?
Center line of sink was kind of gave us where our drain locations need to be. And then we want to be as cleanly coming out with these water lines as we can based on the drain. And these vanities are actually 33 inches instead of a 36. Mm-hmm. So there's just kind of a standard off the floor for that drain. Mm-hmm. We just dropped it 3 inches below that.
So I see the same thing over there. We got a floor-mounted toilet, a water line coming out there. What about that height of that water? One of the things that drives me absolutely crazy is when there's no consideration about the height of that to what our finished detail is. Is that in the baseboard, on top of the baseboard, in the baseboard cap, above it?
It's going to fall above it. We try to avoid cutting into the baseboard and chasing moldings to make it look intentional. It's actually 8 inches off the roof, 8 inches off the floor.
So, guys, I have to call attention to this because I feel like on social media, a lot of times I'm seeing people come over with their baseboard and they're mitering up, over, back down, and then behind the toilet, so that they can capture, the escutcheon for this. I understand that that makes sense. You want to be above it, especially if the baseboard cap is in the middle of that copper. You don't want the cap there. But I'm telling you that it's much better. Call the plumber, have him move that up or down, and if it's PEX, frankly, they can probably move it themselves. But don't do that. You're calling attention to a water line coming out of the wall for no reason. It's much better looking if it's intentionally thought out prior to ever putting the baseboard in, whether you put it low enough where it comes out of the flat stock or high, like Tim has said, above the baseboard. Don't call attention to the water line. It's just not a good detail. While the craftsmanship is great, and I appreciate the craftsmanship, it's just not the right way to do it.
No, it's better to put a little time into it ahead of time.
Over here, I noticed, what's the reasoning for switching to copper for all of your shower rough?
Same reason, personal preference. Just use as little PEX as possible when it comes to these valves. They're set dimensions apart. You don't need any fluff here. Mm-hmm. If anything, there's a little bit, quarter an inch of play that we could move these copper lines up and down, but it's set. Tiles already laid out. Everything's done. Get it set in copper.
That's a really important point in talking about tile. Yeah. So we're oftentimes, whether it's drawn on the design or we're doing a layout here on site, we're trying to figure out where that tile is going to lay out for our grout lines, our center lines, things like that. And exactly what you just said before that, you do have a little flux in it. It's usually about a quarter inch. So when you're setting the tile, you know that the intention was maybe this to be dead center of grout and this to land in the center of a tile. And if that has to be moved or adjusted a little bit, you do it before you set this wall, and then that sets the tile for the rest of the space. Yep. So upstairs we have a lot more mechanical, but before we go up there, where does all this PEX head to?
So we did kind of a centrally located isolation bank.
Centrally located isolation bank.
Yeah, probably.
A CLIB.
Yeah, this is another big thing that we have to locate in the project. So this is actually in the guest bedroom closet.
That's what I was going to ask you. So where are we in the space? So we're in the guest bedroom closet.
Yeah.
And so all of our water lines run into this space.
Yep.
And go ahead.
So right now they're kind of just kept up high just to get this test on it. Eventually these are all going to carry down to a finished box we're going to kind of create down here. Away from baseboard, away from shelf and a pole. This is on its own, and it's kind of these two banks, one hot, one cold, all with individual shutoffs to what we're looking to isolate.
So second floor bath. Let me read that again. Yeah, second floor bath, cold and hot.
Yep.
First floor bath, cold, hot. Kitchen, cold, hot, and et cetera, et cetera. And what you're talking about here is actually not going to be exposed. This will be in wall.
Correct.
And then you're going to have a big access panel here buried. That's a great point as far as the location of it. You don't want to be up near that pole. You want to kind of be able to either push the clothes off to the side and open that, or if you have to take the clothes out, at least you're not taking the pole down, taking the shelf down, and you're also not screwing into it. So this is just going to be quarter turn valves like this, right?
Yeah, and each one has a drawer off, so you can kill any one you want and draw it off from the same location.
What does draw it off mean?
So on this valve, just like a spigot or anything outside, twist that off, hook a hose up to it, run it to a sink, toilet, tub, whatever you want to do.
5-gallon bucket on the floor.
5-gallon bucket, and drain down that line.
Gotcha.
For whatever reason you shut it off for.
Sure. And this ties into our main coming into the building.
It does.
So guys, remember this is an existing one unit in a 4-unit building. We're in a brownstone down in downtown Boston. So we're dealing with existing conditions, and one of the existing conditions is, a hot water source that is for the whole building. So we have a hot water line coming in as well as a cold water line coming in. We're not producing our own hot water. So there's actually a mechanical room on the back side of this. We'll have our cold water being metered, and then coming out of that mechanical room into our, what was it? The clib? The
Yeah.
I forget
centrally located
isolation bank
Yep.
in our guest bedroom closet, and this is where we have total control of our entire unit.
Yep.
And this is in addition to the shutoffs underneath the sink. Everyone has the shutoffs under the sink or beside the toilet, but this is if that were to fail, or there was an issue in the wall or something like that they had to come back, or they were redoing a bathroom later on. They don't have to kill the whole building. That's something that we deal with a lot in these buildings, is that, hey, I want to renovate my bathroom. No problem, but you got to shut the water down for the whole building. Yeah. And now we're making enemies and not friends with the neighbors.
Even within your own unit, to be able to shut down the kitchen and deal with something there and still have access to other bathrooms,
That's a great point.
Is good for us.
Yeah. Why don't we head upstairs? I want to look at that ductwork that you guys have being installed and some of the detailing up there. As we walk through the patio, let's just appreciate how nice it is, and also appreciate the homeowner for leaving the patio furniture for a nice, really nice little.
Lunch is nice.
Lunch is nice looking over the Charles out there. All right, so I had made reference downstairs about your mock-up for the crown molding, and here is the first round. I think we're modifying it a little bit. But this was the first round mock-up. So we actually had the client in town, the architect and the interior designer here, and wanted that built up so we could see what it looked like in the space.
Yeah.
Walk me through basically why you did that and kind of what we're hoping to achieve by doing that mock-up.
So similar, like you said, it's something that's very visual. You can't see it on a set of plans. Sometimes a builder can pick it out and say, oh, I really like that, but a client or a designer, sometimes they don't know what they're looking at. It looks like a bunch of lines on a paper.
Right.
So put it in its place, make it big enough so everybody can get a look at it and understand the quality.
Yeah. And those are all Kuchen Brother profiles, is that right?
That's correct.
And so that's mocked up based on John Buckley, who's the architect. He drew basically a section view, and you had built that to full scale.
Yep.
And one of the things that we haven't talked about is these windows are actually going to be changed as well. So this room is going to have a pretty drastic difference from the original space.
Yeah, windows and the door.
And the door.
Yep.
Cool. All right, a couple things. We're talking about ductwork. So let's go back to where is the unit up here?
So this is going to be access through this bathroom, which hasn't been demoed yet, but this will be the door for the bathroom. Right now there is an existing bathroom access from the library side.
So the reason we haven't demoed the bathroom is, again, we're in downtown Boston. We don't have an area for a porta-john.
Yeah.
So we typically like to leave one bathroom as long as we can until we have another one up and running, which we usually outfit with construction fixtures.
Yeah.
And then when we deliver the project, we swap those out for the final. So in here is our construction bathroom. And you've tucked another pancake unit, right?
Yeah.
So this will be a future bathroom, and we have another unit here. Same reasoning downstairs, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, this one's going to be access from the library side, but it's tough on the primary floor to try to figure out where you want to sacrifice some
So you're saying library side. So this is out here is going to be a future library.
Yeah, and you get the hallway on the other side that kind of goes into the living room and kitchen. So you had to pick a space to put this access panel, and that sort of dictated which way we face this, where it was located in here. So
I'm looking up, I can see the line set connections. I can see, again, the isolation valves, which is also really important, being that there's another unit above us.
Yep.
So everything is accessible from this side.
Yep.
Now, ductwork, same thing here. You get the ductwork covers. Those are and that's not where dust can actually fall in, but as dust accumulates throughout the space, it can make its way into that ductwork.
It gets everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. Overall, what are we looking at as far as ductwork and what's going on in this space, and how did we kind of figure out where stuff needed to be?
We generally try to place things center of light, center of window, try to keep any ductwork away from crown molding details, millwork details. So it's a little tricky, but look at the RCP plan and figure out where you can squeeze this stuff in. And creatively, in this case, because it's a remodel, figure out how to get that ductwork to where it needs to be.
So in this library here, I'm assuming supplies down near our cold point, which would be our window.
Yep.
And is this a return here?
It is.
And excuse me. And then out here, similar to this is probably more general where you have a couple supplies. And is this larger one here a return?
It is, yeah, and it's centered over a cabinet that's going to go right here.
Gotcha. So architecturally pleasing.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're working with McDougall and working with them to make sure that things are in the right spot. But overall, our goal is to supply at our exterior walls or windows and doors, and then pull that across. And that's exactly what you're doing here with that return way back on this spot as well. Up here, there's not a ton of plumbing. We have our future bathroom. It looks like you've already prepped for the kitchen here. And what we got going on is a drain and a vent, right? So this will be a bow vent, is that correct?
Yeah, the island, there's no wall behind it, so bow vent is the only option here.
So that way, that's basically going to come up in U-shape back down. And I think if I remember correctly, there's actually there's a drain on the vent as well as, and that will be below.
Yep, and you can see that in the framing below us also. Yep.
Gotcha. So last point, you're talking about millwork, talking about understanding where this stuff has to end up. We're working with, obviously, Ken over at Material Millwork and understanding what the cabinets look like and how they're constructed to make sure that the plumbing is in the right spot and we're coming through the center of cabinets in the right spot. Yep. Tim, one thing I forgot to talk about, and last week when I was on site, I had done a story and was talking about this framing. This is LVL framing, and it's actually cantilevered. Oh, we have one of our new LVL beams back here, and this is cantilevered out. What is this for, and why is it cantilevered?
So it's actually the top of the set of stairs. Stairs wrap around and kind of come where I'm standing, and that's a landing that's off to one side of it.
So rather than having an opening here and then going down the stairs, because it's a U-shaped set of stairs, John has designed it to have this kind of landing back, which is actually really nice. As you come in, you can kind of tuck something, whether it's a plant or it just doesn't feel, it won't feel as though you're just cutting this
right up against it.
Yeah, square opening. What's going on with all the notches in the top of the LVL?
So we're trying to kind of hold a nice straight line to shim to. So right now the floor you're standing on is not flat, is not level. We need to kind of blend in the nice level square existing or new staircase into our old existing.
So out here is actually perfectly level plumb.
It is, yeah.
And as you come back, you actually need to lose that level in order to die into the existing floor. So that notch in the top of that LVL is basically your shim space.
We created that point also to where now we're equally shimming. We're not here on this one, right. 2 inches this way. A nice straight point to be able to lose everything we have to lose into this floor from.
And in these old buildings and these old brownstones, it's really important to understand that not everything can always be perfectly flat, especially when it comes to these floor systems when we're not completely rebuilding them. So hopefully that answers your question. I know we have a 3D model, so maybe we'll share that staircase design in a future episode. But until then, Tim, thank you.
Got it.
We'll see you guys next week.